Hey, it's Mike's from LiveMyAssOff.com. I'm just checking in. This is basically day 2 of being in the hospital with typhoid now, is what it's determined I have, along with not full-on dengue fever. It's kind of like I've been exposed to it. I'm not sure it's just like a 3-letter abbreviation that says it's like dengue fever ICG or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't profess to have any medical competency. But this is my new friend, as well as the air conditioner right there. There are no lizards on the ceiling. There's no geckos in this hospital. What I did out of sheer frustration last night, because the nurse at the Palawan Baptist Hospital, they call it a hospital, it's ridiculous, it's a clinic. The only room in the entire facility is one emergency room, ER, that has air. That's the only room that has air conditioning. And the facility we were at or the room we were at had 2 beds. And no air conditioning, but a fan. And, I suppose because I, thought I had potentially gotten dengue fever, I didn't know I had typhoid. I was actually, believe it or not, I was actually happy that there were geckos in the ceiling, because I believe those guys eat mosquitoes, or at least I saw them chasing them around. So, quite frankly, the geckos were providing me better customer service than the people that worked at the facility. All in, the thing was like 5,000 pesos or something like that. And they gave me an IV and fluids and stuff, but they wouldn't transfer me to another hospital, which they refused to. Because apparently if they do, then she would have to put another IV in me, and the nurse would have to accompany me in an ambulance to the next facility. And she said, that, and I said, all right, well, what is it? Let me just buy the ambulance. What is it going to take for the ambulance to get me from point A to point B? I can't do that, because to do that I would have to sign off on it, and I'm not going to sign off on it. And then she started complaining about the facilities or whatever. And I just said, do you understand why no one wants to give you money for this facility? Your customer service is horrible. You don't take care of the customer. You don't understand what their needs are, and you're unwilling to provide them with what they want. And so therefore your facility is never going to get any better. So that was a little bit disappointing and frustrating at the same time. This is called the current hospital we're in. I'm actually fairly pleased with. I mean, again, it's a hospital in the Philippines. So therefore, like 80% of the stuff works, whatever. But the care is better. This apparently is the best hospital in Palawan, which is not really saying much in comparison to like Western facilities. Palawan is it's a fairly large island, of course, but in truth, it's really considered the province. There's no real big sort of cities here. There's no Cebu. There's no well, Manila's disgusting, but there's no Cebu. Let's just say that. Because some of the medical care that I've experienced at Cebu was actually fantastic. The dentistry was good, and so that was promising. But what I will say is that because of the lack of just infrastructure in general in the Philippines, it's gonna only. I mean, I don't even know if it can be a vacation spot anymore. I mean, this last hospital we were at, like, they had no cell coverage. They had no landlines that they were willing to let me use to call my insurance company so that they could pay for everything. She said, well, we can't afford to call. I said, it's a collect call. I don't know how to make collect calls. I'm like, oh my God, you're so incompetent. So that was very frustrating. And then, of course, as we were leaving, every time I asked for the nurse or the doctor to come in and see me, the response I got was, well, they're busy. And then I go outside, of course, and they're just standing around. And there's no other patients. So that was, anyway, so what I did was I called the manager of this hotel we were staying at. And I said, Eric, I'm in a spot. I said, what's it going to cost me to get a car and 2 drivers to come up here, pick us up, drive us back, as well as the rental car back right now. And so all in, that was that was 4,000 pesos. It was 3,500 for the van to have the 2 guys come up both ways, and then an additional 400 or 500 for the guy to drive my rental car back. With actually, Gracie and I, we hung on the rental car on the way back home here, simply because the seats reclined. In the van, the seats didn't recline, but it's interesting. I remember when I first started going to Thailand, and people would say, well, it's a third world country or whatever, and I'd be like, well, parts of it are backwards, yeah, but for the most part, it's not. It's a much more, it's not totally third world as you might think of it. The Philippines is a third world country. They have, they're very pleasant and that sort of thing, but the sad reality is that the education here is not good. The infrastructure is horrible. I've heard people describe it as the worst internet in the world. And again, I don't know that for a fact, but a lot of people say the worst in the world when they're just frustrated with something. And trust me, I'm pretty frustrated. But anyway, so before I forget, the hospital I'm at now is the Adventist hospital. And as I've said in a couple of videos before, if you're watching this, then that means I'm not here anymore. Because again, the internet is so bad in really all of Palawan that I just simply can't upload videos. And so all of these are just sort of stacking up until I get to my next spot, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do there. My flight plans are in a couple of days. I will go from here in Palawan to Manila, and then Manila to Bangkok, and then in Bangkok I was going to do banking for about a day and a half. And then from there, fly back through the Middle East, through Dubai, and then Qatar over to JFK. And I don't know if the Middle East, I mean, certainly Dubai, Arab Emirates, United Arab Emirates are pretty mellow right now. They're pretty safe, certainly for Westerners. But, at the end of the day, it is still fairly close to Syria, right? And because I don't watch the news, I've only watched the news briefly a few days ago when they announced that 49 or something Tomahawk missiles, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, crap. And the limited amount of knowledge I have of that whole scenario is that my opinion right now, just mine, not necessarily yours, whatever, is that I'm glad we did what we did. I think that our president is actually, well, at the end of the day, he's our commander-in-chief. And if you don't respect the commander-in-chief and you don't respect the president, well, either do something about it constructively or leave. Don't just complain. And if you're going to question it, make sure you have the reasons behind that, as far as I'm concerned. That's Mike's opinion. So anyway, we're at the... it's Mike's. I just wanted to check in from livemyassoff.com and just kind of check in from the next hospital where we're at, the Adventists hospital here in Puerto Princesa. Hope you're living the dream, because if you're not, then you're possibly feeling like me, and I don't feel great. Typhoid, dengue fever. Oh, and I have amoeba, apparently, in my digestive tract. So, excessive diarrhea and thus hydration, pain meds, all through IV, and food here is disgusting. Of course, one could argue that that label could be placed on everything in the Philippines. The Filipino food is gross. It's only when they learn how to prepare other foods that the food here is good. So anyway, I'm going to go back to sleep. I love you guys. Ciao.